Hello and welcome viewers. You're watching In Depth with your host Kriti Mishra. Article 63 of Indian Constitution states that there shall be a Vice President of India. The office of the Vice President was established within the framework of Indian Constitution in 1950. It reflects the framers' intent to create institutional continuity and effective parliamentary governance. Let's analyze the dual constitutional role of Vice President of India, that is, legislative and executive. Come along. Article 63 of Constitution of India provides that there shall be a Vice President of India. Article 64 and 89(1) provide that the Vice President of India shall be ex officio chairman of the Council of States, that is the Rajya Sabha, and shall not hold any other office of profit. In the constitutional setup, the holder of the office of Vice President is part of the executive, but as chairman of Rajya Sabha, he or she is a part of Parliament. He thus has a dual capacity and holds two distinct and separate offices. The office of the Vice President is one of the unique features of the Constitution of India. It has no exact parallel in the countries of other democratic constitutions of the world. There is no such office in other parliamentary systems of governments in Commonwealth countries or in Ireland. The only constitution among the important democracies of the world which provides for such an office is that of the United States of America. But the office of the Vice President of India, though analogous to, but it is not identical with that of Vice President in the United States of America, for the obvious reason that it has a presidential system of government and not a parliamentary one as in India. And yet the constitution makers of India, while basically following the British parliamentary system, decided to opt for the American system and provided that, like the Vice President in the USA, the Vice President of India will preside over the upper house and act as President in certain contingencies. Thus, the Vice President of India has been clothed with a dual capacity as the second head of the executive and as the presiding officer of the upper house of Parliament. This naturally casts an enormous burden of responsibility on the holder of this office. He has to keep the responsibilities of the two offices distinct and separate. The chairman cannot allow his mind to be influenced by the knowledge acquired in his capacity as the Vice President. While performing his duties as Vice President, he cannot do anything which may impair his obligation as chairman. It is remarkable that in India, the holders of this high office as Vice President have functioned within this fusion of roles and have received admiration and appreciation of the nation as a whole. They have occupied the chair of the Rajya Sabha with singular distinction and have performed their functions with grace and dignity during all these years. The Vice President is elected through an indirect election conducted by Election Commission of India with an electoral college comprising of elected members of Parliament and nominated members of Rajya Sabha. Only Parliament MPs can vote. MLAs of state assemblies cannot vote. Room number F101, Vasudha, first floor, Parliament House, New Delhi, has been fixed as the place of polling for the vice presidential election. As per Article 66 of the Constitution of India, the Vice President is elected by the members of the Electoral College, consisting of members of both Houses of Parliament in accordance with the system of proportional representation by means of the single transferable vote. For 2025, that is the 17th Vice Presidential election, the Electoral College will consist of 233 elected members of Rajya Sabha, as presently 5 seats are vacant, 12 nominated members of the Rajya Sabha, and 543 elected members of Lok Sabha. Presently, 1 seat is vacant. For marking the vote, the Commission will supply particular pens. The pen will be given to the electors in the polling station by the designated official when the ballot paper is handed over. Electors have to mark the ballot only with this particular pen and not with any other pen. Voting by using any other pen shall lead to invalidation of the vote at the time of counting. Under the law, nomination can be filed either by the candidate himself or by any of his proposers or seconders between 11 am to 3 pm. Nomination cannot be filed on public holidays. A nomination paper of a candidate has to be subscribed by at least 20 electors as proposers and by at least other 20 electors as seconders. No elector shall subscribe more than one nomination paper at the same election as either a proposer or a seconder, and is governed by Section 5B 5 of the Presidential and Vice Presidential Elections Act of 1952. A candidate can file a maximum of 4 nomination papers. The security deposit for the election is 15,000 rupees, which is required to be made along with the nomination paper or should be deposited in Reserve Bank of India or a government treasury under the relevant head of accounts for the purpose prior to filing of nomination. Each contesting candidate can authorize a representative to be present at the place of polling and at the place fixed for counting. Authorization of representatives for this purpose shall be made by the candidate in writing at appropriate time. Political parties cannot issue any whip to their MPs in the matter of voting in the vice presidential election. As per Section 18 of the Presidential and Vice Presidential Elections Act 1952, the offence of bribery or undue influence, as defined in Sections 170 or 171 of Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, by returned candidate or any other person with the consent of the returned candidate, are among the grounds on which the election can be declared void by Supreme Court in an election petition. The election to the office of Vice President of India, being an indirect election, does not involve election campaigning in the conventional manner of displaying banners or posters. Still, the Commission, in view of importance of this election, has directed the returning officer concerned to ensure use of eco-friendly and biodegradable material and eliminate the use of prohibited plastic or materials as per extant instructions of Government of India. Let's take a look at the schedule of Vice President's election 2025. Last day of marking nominations, 21st August. Date for the scrutiny of nominations, 22nd August. Last date for withdrawal of candidature, 25th August. Date of polling, 9th September if necessary. And date of counting, 9th September 2025.
The Vice President of India occupies a unique position in the country's constitutional framework, serving as a legislative presiding officer and an executive successor, ensuring institutional continuity.
So who elects the Vice President of India? Well, the Vice President is elected by an electoral college which consists of members of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, both elected and nominated members. What is the term of office of the Vice President? The Vice President holds office for a term of 5 years from the date on which he enters upon his office. However, notwithstanding the expiration of his term, he shall continue to hold office until his successor enters upon his office. In the case of death, removal or resignation of Vice President, the Constitution does not provide any other method of succession apart from a fresh election. However, in such event, the Deputy Chairman can function as the Chairman of Rajya Sabha. What is the legal framework for the election? Well, the election to the office of Vice President of India is governed by the provisions contained in Article 64 to 68 of Constitution of India and the Presidential and Vice Presidential Elections Act 1952 and the rules made thereunder. Who conducts the election to the office of Vice President of India? Under Article 324 of the Constitution of India, the authority to conduct elections to the office of Vice President is vested in the Election Commission of India. What electoral system or process is adopted for the election? As per Article 66(1) of the Constitution of India, the election of the Vice President shall be held in accordance with the system of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote, and the voting at such election shall be made by secret ballot. Who is appointed as the returning officer? By convention, the Secretary General Lok Sabha or Secretary General Rajya Sabha is appointed as the returning officer by rotation. 2 other senior officers of Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha Secretariat are appointed as the assistant returning officers. The Election Commission of India makes such appointments. Can an elector propose or second the nomination of more than one candidate at a vice presidential election? Well, no. An elector can propose or second the name of only one candidate at a vice presidential election. Let's take a look at the grounds for rejection of the nomination of a candidate. A nomination paper may be rejected on the following grounds. On the date of scrutiny of nominations, the candidate is not eligible for election as vice president under the Constitution. Or, if any of the proposers or seconders is not qualified to subscribe a nomination paper, that is, he is not an elector at the election. Or, if it is not subscribed by the required number of proposers and seconders. Or, if the signature of the candidate or any of the proposers or seconders is not genuine or has been obtained by fraud. If the nomination paper is not presented in person by the candidate or any of his proposers or seconders, or if it is not delivered to the returning officer by the prescribed date. What is the color and form of the ballot papers used in election to the office of the Vice President? Ballot papers for vice presidential elections are printed in pink color. The ballot papers are printed with two columns, first column containing the names of the candidates and the second column for marking preference by the elector for each candidate. The ballot papers are printed in Hindi and English. How is the value of votes of members of Electoral College calculated? Unlike the presidential election, where the value of votes cast by the members of Parliament and that of various state legislative assemblies is different, the value of every vote cast in the vice presidential election has the same value, that is 1. Can an elector vote by post at the vice presidential election for any reason like illness, business or occupation? Well, no, only a voter under preventive detention can vote by post. Is it compulsory for an elector at a vice presidential election to mark his preference for all candidates? No, only the marking of a first preference is compulsory for a ballot paper to be valid. Marking other preferences is optional. What are the grounds for rejection of the ballot paper? The returning officer shall reject a ballot paper as invalid on which the figure 1 is not marked, or figure 1 is marked against the name of more than one candidate, or marked in a manner which renders it doubtful as to which candidate is intended to apply. The figure 1 and some other figure is marked against the name of a candidate. Candidates must meet specific constitutional requirements: Indian citizenship, minimum age of 35 years, and qualification for Rajya Sabha membership. They cannot hold any office of profit under central or state governments. If already serving as an MP, they must vacate their legislative seat before resuming the vice presidency. The vice president occupies the second highest office in the country. He is accorded a rank next to president in the official warrant of precedence.
Well, viewers, that's all we had for you in this edition. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Sansad TV. Goodbye for now from my side.
To watch more programs of Sansad TV, subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to like and share them.